Well, good afternoon. It's Sunday, April 9th, 2017. My name is Huey Poplock, and this is the Central Florida Computer Society and the Windows Special Interest Group, or the WinSIG. We start approximately at 1:30 the second Sunday of every month, just prior to the main meeting of the Central Florida Computer Society. I'm sitting in my home in Bradenton, Florida. I am a former president and officer and been the Windows SIG Special Interest Group chairman of the Central Florida Computer Society, or CFCS. Since 1987, I joined CFCS, and every month we do the Windows Special Interest Group. And because I'm down here in Bradenton now, and I don't think you want to drive that far, for those of you who are watching on the screen, it's about 120 miles. We do it remotely and virtually through the internet, through the use of zoom.us, which is the service that we use to present these. And what I'd like to talk about, and what I usually talk about, let's go ahead and minimize, actually I can close this out and bring up the, let's see. This is my website, Huey's Views and Reviews. Let's go to the cover page. I have a blog. I do some articles. And then also on the website are the WinSIG meetings going back, believe it or not, all the way to 2008. They're all listed there. We'll go to this month's, which is 2017. And April, well, let's look at last month's first, just so you get an idea what I do. After the meeting, I change it. And change it to past tense, and then also add to it a recording of the meeting if, in fact, I get one. And in most cases, unless I forget or we have a technical problem, we'll have it. And you can watch it. If you don't make the meeting, you can watch it at a later date. Now let's go to this month's. I have put up, and I usually do a couple of days before the meeting, I put up a list with links to all of the items I want to cover. And actually, if any of you checked it a day or two ago, I've added another one that I found an article last night that I thought was good enough, and I did want to add it to the list today. We're using up time by me explaining all this, and I apologize, but I did want to get started with. Now, the first one's an article called Windows 3.1. Believe it or not, it's 25 years ago that Windows 3.1 was released. Some of us were in, I believe this was the one that we were in Atlanta at Comdex, and it was the test version was called Chicago, and it was introduced by Microsoft with the band Chicago playing a concert, which was great. Anyway, instead of looking through the slideshow and me reading everything or you reading everything, what I did is I produced a little video similar to what I did last month. So let's go ahead and watch that. And
happy birthday, Windows 3.1. Imagine a world without the start button. No, I'm not talking about Windows 8. Dig deep into your memory, and you may recall a time when Windows 3.1 ruled the earth. 25 years ago this month, Microsoft released version 3.1 of its MS-DOS graphical shell-turned operating system. Windows 3.1 became the first version of Windows to be widely distributed with new PCs, cementing the dominance of Microsoft's OS on the IBM PC platform and signaling the dawn of the golden age of Windows. In honor of this anniversary, let's take a visual tour through Windows 3.1. In the following slides, I'll highlight many of the innovations this colorful GUI brought to Windows for the first time. Program Manager. Before Windows Explorer, there was Program Manager, where you could group application icons together any way you wanted, allowing for primitive program organization. For viewing files on your computer, you ran File Manager. It worked well enough, but juggling the many windows could prove tricky and you could end up with 50+ program groups filling your screen. File Manager. File Manager let you explore the file system of your computer visually, using a directory tree and an icon-based view of files. Copying between folders was as easy as a drag and drop, which attracted many novice PC users to Windows. Microsoft combined File Manager and Program Manager into Windows Explorer and Windows 95, and the arrangement has been that way ever since. TrueType fonts. The TrueType font system marked the most important visual innovation in Windows 3.1. TrueType was actually developed by Apple Computer, which, if you can believe it, licensed the technology to Microsoft for free. Why? Apple didn't want Adobe to monopolize digital type. Rather than using blocky pixels in a bitmap, TrueType described fonts as curves and lines, which allowed fonts to scale smoothly to any size. This capability produced amazing printed documents, a big reason why Windows 3.1 flourished as a desktop publishing platform. Win 3.1 included 15 fonts with now familiar names such as Arial, Courier, System, and Times New Roman. Built-in screensavers. Prior to Windows 3.1, if you wanted to save your monitor from CRT burn-in, you either turned it off or installed a third-party screensaver such as After Dark. In version 3.1, Microsoft included 4 screensavers: blank screen, flying windows, assorted Windows logos soaring by, marquee, a phrase of your choice scrolling across the screen, and Starfield Simulation, a flight through space, with the stars streaking past. Of course, users could install many more screensavers, which spawned a back of the magazine cottage industry of screensaver plugins that functioned more as eye candy than as a genuine means to protect your monitor. Minesweeper and Solitaire. In the days before easy and ubiquitous access to celebrity news blogs, office workers often whiled away their idle hours with games of Solitaire and Minesweeper, well, that and doodling with Paintbrush. Solitaire first appeared in Windows 3.0, but Microsoft introduced the puzzle classic Minesweeper in 3.1, replacing 3.0's Reversi. Some people claim that Windows Solitaire has wasted more hours of productivity than any other PC application. The registry is born. Windows 3.1 brought many improvements, but it also introduced a feature that would become the bane of many Windows users: the registry. We all know how easy it is for this custom database of hidden system settings to become jumbled and wreak havoc on our machines. The registry has survived all the complaints, though, behind the modern-looking, Metro Touch interface of Windows 8, the registry still lurks. Control Panel. Back in the days of 3.1, you needed only 12 icons in the control panel to configure all of Windows. In my Windows 7 control panel, I count 52 icons. Of course, Windows 3.1 took up just 11 megabytes of disk space, versus 23 gigabytes for my Windows 7 install, a good indication of the OS's increasing complexity over the years. Windows 3.1 was the first version of Windows to have a modular control panel. You could add new panels to the window shown here simply by copying a special CPL file into the Windows System folder. Embedded images. Windows 3.1 introduced a system-wide means of embedding and linking different types of files together called OLE, short for Object Linking and Embedding. What does that mean? For example, you could take a Paintbrush bitmap file and embed it into a write word processing file, as shown here. But if the bitmap were linked instead, any external changes in the bitmap would be reflected in the write file. We take such functionality for granted these days, but 25 years ago this was a major convenience. Uniform open/save dialog boxes. Prior to Windows 3.1, application authors had to code their own open/save file dialog boxes from scratch for every program, which led to confusing inconsistencies. Microsoft remedied that in 3.1 by introducing a system-wide open/save dialog box system, shown here in Paintbrush, that developers could plug into their products. Multimedia Support. Microsoft first supported sound and video playback as part of Windows 3.0 with multimedia extensions, released in 1991, but only on new machines. The company made those additions standard in Windows 3.1, allowing users to play and record high-quality digitized audio files using sound cards such as the popular Sound Blaster Pro. And in Media Player, users could watch AV video files if their hardware could handle the video without choking. Notepad and Calculator. Neither Notepad nor Calculator originated with Windows 3.1, but these often used accessories are worth a look anyway. Though the appearance of Notepad should be familiar to most modern Windows users, the colorful, flat buttons of Calculator may seem a little strange. Those buttons are a vestige of the time before the shaded, 3D button look of 1990s Windows 3.0 became standard. Windows 95 introduced a more Windows-looking calculator 3 years later. Task list. In modern versions of Windows, you hold down Ctrl-Alt-Delete to access Task Manager. In Windows 3.1, you pressed Ctrl-ESC or double-clicked on the desktop to bring up the precursor of Task Manager, called Task List. The utility let you view all open applications and close one if it became unruly. That wasn't as useful as it sounds, though, since most application crashes at the time took Windows down with them. Digital Doodles. We'll end our tour of 3.1 with an abstract illustration created by my brother in Paintbrush, the ancestor of today's Paint. At a time when most Windows PCs supported only 16 colors, Paintbrush functioned as a versatile Swiss Army knife for quick graphics editing tasks. The era of Windows 3.1 was a simpler time, but not necessarily a bad one. After all, if Windows misbehaved, and believe me, that happened a lot, you could simply quit an MS-DOS and pretend that Windows didn't exist. This article originally appeared at PCWorld.com.
I hope you enjoyed that little history lesson for those of us who lived through that time period. It really has, a lot of things have changed since then. Going on to our next item. Let me go back here.
Huey,
Yes.
I'd like to take just a moment, a couple of comments. One of them is that it really was the first graphic user interface, GUI. And Apple had been out with it before, but it made a big dent in the market. And a lot of the things that we see now in the latest versions of Windows, you see the precursors there. And Huey, we mentioned last night, you said that it was the introduction of the registry, and I didn't recall that, because the neat thing about Windows 3.1 is that if you put it on a hard drive, it wasn't married to the computer. It didn't have to know what the motherboard was, but the processor, memory, video card, that sort of thing. So I still have a 6 megabyte, 3.5-inch hard drive with Windows 3.1 on it. I can put it into any desktop computer and it works. And every once in a while, I'll plug it in and turn it on just for troubles. Just like I have a Windows 98 machine with a 3.5-inch floppy and a 5.25-inch floppy. Because every once in a while, somebody finds a few 5.25s and they say, "Hey, I need to get these files off." Nobody has 5.25s anymore. Most of us don't even have 3.5. So, thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Ted's got it. Sure.
Way back here, Mike Ungerman was the president of the club, and I was the director. He arranged a party at his house for all the officers of the club, and bring your wife and bring something to eat. We all put our name in the hat, and it just so happened that my wife was the first one drawn out of the hat, and it just so happened that a copy of Windows 3.1 was on the table. So I told her, "You get 3.1 or you walk home." So that's how I got 3.1.
I guess she chose 3.1 because you're still with her.
Yeah. 65 years.
Very good. Congratulations. All right, let's continue so we can be here another 65 minutes or a little less. I thought I'd mention this for a couple of reasons. This article is Android is now more popular than Windows. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but Android now is the most popular operating system in the world, knocking Windows off the top spot for the first time in decades. There's some caveats to consider here, but Android is on its way up, passing Windows on the way down, and has to be a cause for concern for Microsoft. Windows at one time was the be-all, end-all, and now Android is overtaking it. But you've got to remember that Android is on phones, and that's what they're talking about, and on tablets, and on the Chromebook. And that was the reason I wanted to include this in here is I purchased a Chromebook this past week, and I may start either a podcast or maybe make it a SIG of CFCS. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. but I'm going to become an expert in Chromebooks and kind of pass that information on to people. I'm not going to get into it here because this is a Windows SIG, but I did want you to be aware of the fact that the Chrome and Android operating systems are becoming very popular, as well as, of course, the Windows one. The next article, I'm not going to spend any time on. I want you to be aware of it. And I may have even mentioned this before, or some of these before. This article has 13 Windows diagnostic tools to check your PCs. Just to show you, CPU-Z is one I had not heard of. But then when I looked at it and I saw the screenshot of it, I remember looking at it, and I may have covered it at a former meeting at one time. Performance monitor and reliability monitor and so on. So there's a whole bunch there. The Wi-Fi analyzer. Mike and I talked about that a little bit this past week. Angry IP scanner and so on. I'll let you read that article on your own. So I'm not going to cover those items because I do want to talk about the fact that today is the 9th of April. On the 11th, 2 days from now, Microsoft is going to start rolling out what is called a the creator's version of Windows 10, which is version 1703, named after the year 17 and March 3rd, when it was originally going to be released. And that's going to be the next major update, and the first update in many months since actually August, excuse me, of the Windows 10 operating system. It's going to be a slow rollout, so not all of you will get a Windows 10 update on the 11th, but it could start happening to some of you 2 days from now. So I want you aware of what's coming, and then also some things to be careful of, some things that you should do. But what is it going to be? Well, the new rollouts going to start, as I said, on the 11th. That's what this article is. And there's some things that you can do. And this is an article you might want to take a look at. There's also a video in it. And it's got some disk cleanup in it. And some, because if you are limited in your space on the drive where the operating system is, you're going to have to make some room. And this article will tell you a little bit about some of the ways you can do that. The next article is some things you should do before installing Windows 10, before you do the update. But let's take a look before we do that. Let's look at another one of the videos that I have for you. I'll minimize this. And what I want to do is some of the new features, and then we'll come back to some things.
Windows 10 doesn't behave like the Windows of yesteryear. Instead of a monolithic operating system replaced by a successor in a year or two, it's more of a living, breathing entity, one that's constantly changing with the release of massive new named updates. The most high-profile example was 2016's Anniversary Update, which added features like the Bash Shell, a dark theme, Windows Ink, Xbox Play Anywhere, and a whole lot more. But even more fresh features are on the way in the Windows 10 Creators Update, which will start rolling out on April 11th. Let's dig into the goodies Microsoft has planned this time around. Privacy Dashboard. The launch of Windows 10 was marred by two major controversies: the heavy-handed, downright nasty forced upgrade push, and deep-seated privacy concerns. Well, Microsoft's aggressive user migration ended when the free upgrade offer expired, and the Windows 10 Creators Update addresses privacy concerns with the new Privacy Dashboard. The good news: the simplified dashboard is easy to understand and manage. The bad news: it limits your options to allowing Microsoft minimal or full access to your PC, eliminating intermediate options that were there prior. Check out Corel's Windows 10 Privacy Dashboard coverage for the full skinny. Gaming boosts. Gamers will find a lot to love in the Creators Update, especially if they've learned to stop worrying and love the Windows Store. If you're not playing the likes of Minecraft, Forza Horizon 3, or Gears of War 4, there's a lot less to be excited about. The Creators Update elevates gaming to first-class status, Adding a dedicated gaming options section to the OS's settings up. Microsoft's also baking the ability to stream your live gaming sessions to your Xbox Live buddies via Beam right into Windows 10's Game DVR tool, complete with chatting capabilities. Finally, Windows 10's new game mode shifts your hardware's resources around to maximize gaming performance and reduce frame rate stuttering when you need extra oomph. Paint 3D. The Creators Update's new Paint 3D app supercharges the paint we all know and love, tolerate, with 3D image manipulation. Paint 3DS loaded with tools and filters that make 3D image manipulation easy peasy, and it can even help you convert 2D images into 3D objects. Microsoft's updated app also hooks into Remix 3D, a new website loaded with 3D images created by other Windows 10 users. Check out World's Paint 3D tutorial to start creating awesome 3D scenes of your own in no time. And fear not, the classic Paint app still lives on in the Creators Update as well. Windows VR. Along the same lines, the Windows 10 Creators Update includes the Windows 10 Holographic Shell. The Holographic Shell adds support for augmented and virtual reality apps, so if you dropped $3,000 on a HoloLens developer kit, it'll work with Windows out of the box. But the Windows 10 Holographic Shell will open less princely VR avenues as well. A slew of Microsoft's hardware partners are working on affordable Windows 10 VR headsets that cost as little as $300, though surprisingly, none will be available when the Creators Update launches. Much needed Windows Update improvements. The tweaks Microsoft introduced to Windows 10's updating system have bugged the hell out of many users, as there's no way to decline updates, and those forced updates have a nasty tendency of resetting your PC at inopportune times. The Creators Update adds 2 new features to make updates more tolerable. First, Windows 10 Professional, Education, and Enterprise users will be able to defer new updates for up to 35 days, as well as decide whether they want to include driver updates in the downloads. Sorry Windows Home users, you're still the update guinea pigs. Just as welcome, you'll be able to set your active hours a defined time frame when Windows won't install updates as an 18-hour window, rather than the 12-hour window supported today. Finally, the Creators Update shifts to Microsoft's new Universal Update platform, a set of behind-the-scenes changes in Windows 10 that reduce the processing power needed to update, shrink the size of update files, and streamline updates. Dynamic Lock. Windows Hello uses biometric sensors such as Intel's RealSense cameras to automatically log you into your PC as you sit at it. Dynamic Lock uses your phone's Bluetooth to do the opposite. When you walk away from your PC, the Windows 10 Creators Update automatically locks. Audios, Win+L. Cortana Monthly Reminders. Cortana is getting all sorts of helpful new features in the Creators Update. One of the tiny quality of life upgrades that might help hardcore Cortana users most? The newfound ability to schedule recurring monthly reminders. The flood. One of the trickiest parts of Cortana is figuring out what she's capable of doing. The Windows 10 Creators Update tackles that problem by auto-suggesting commands based on what you're typing, as shown above. Great. The digital assistant's snagging some other tweaks as well. You'll summon Cortana with Win+C rather than Win+Shift+C now, and she's picking up her own start menu tile. Microsoft's also intertwining Cortana with the initial Windows 10 setup so users can ask the assistant questions to help configure devices, and enhancing Cortana's capabilities on the lock screen and managing music playback. eBooks. The Windows Store's getting an ebook section in the Creators Update. You'll actually read the books in Windows 10's Edge browser, however, which is also picking up a dedicated books section and the ability to read ebook file formats like EPUB. Bookmarks, variable font sizes, and Cortana-assisted word lookups are all supported. Edge tab preview bar. That's far from the only update coming to Edge in the Creators Update. Clicking a new chevron located to the right of your tabs in browser will pop open a bar containing rich visual previews of each tab. You can scroll through them all with a touchpad, or your mouse. Life on the Edge. That's not the only Edge improvement. A new set-aside tabs feature, Pictured, lets the browser stash all your open tabs for recollecting later, assisting with tab management. Microsoft's browser can also make Flash content click to run, launch in private windows straight from Edge's jump list in the taskbar and act as a portal for interacting with 3D digital content while you're wearing the HoloLens headset. Microsoft Wallet and Edge. The Creators Update adds Edge browser support for the Payment Request API, which stores your payment and shipping preferences in your Microsoft Wallet, making online purchases fast and easy. It's a great addition to Edge and a fine expansion for Wallet, though you have to wonder why it wasn't implemented from the get-go. Start menu folders. Now this might wind up being handy. With the Windows 10 Creators Update, you'll be able to drag your Start menu apps on top of each other to create folders that expand when clicked on, just like in Windows 10 Mobile. Start menu folders, expanded. And here's what the aforementioned Start menu folder expands to when clicked or tapped. New display settings. PC enthusiasts will find a lot to like in the Windows 10 Creators Update's various settings. The revamped display options now hold the ability to adjust your screen resolution and adjust the amount of blue light emanating from your screen at night, like the beloved F.Lux app. The feature's aptly called Night Light. Touchpad and Surface Dial settings. Windows 10's mouse and touchpad settings have been split into separate sections to greatly expand the number of touchpad options available. Inside the touchpad settings depths you'll find all sorts of tools that let you customize exactly what actions you want your 3- and 4-fingered gestures to enable. It looks seriously handy. Did you pick up a Surface Studio all-in-one? There's also a new options page for Microsoft's Radical Surface Dial. Unified devices. The main devices page in Windows 10's settings has been tweaked to show all the devices connected to your PC in one centralized location, from mouse to keyboard to Surface Pen. It's a major quality of life improvement over having to scrounge across numerous sub-menus to find info on all your PC hardware. Better theme support. The Windows 10 Creators Update packs enhanced options for people who want to customize the look of their PC's theme control has been moved into the personalization section of the settings app, and now you can choose themed accents from the entire color spectrum rather than a handful of predefined options. Don't worry, if you pick a garish combination, Windows will warn you that it's difficult to read. You can also buy new themes from the Windows Store. Now you're playing with PowerShell. The Creators Update pushes the tried and true command prompt into the background in favor of the fuller-featured PowerShell. Now, when you right-click the Start button or an open space in File Explorer, you'll see options to launch PowerShell instead. Fear not. Command prompt isn't being discarded, just de-emphasized. It'll still be installed and you'll be able to open it manually if you'd like. Windows Defender Overhaul. Windows 10's default antivirus app receives a fresh new coat of paint in the Creators Update, along with new scanning options, reports on your PC's performance and health, and more. Defender's also adding a link to refresh your PC, mostly, nuclear option that has lurked deep within Windows settings since Windows 8. Refresh reinstalls and updates Windows, wiping most of your apps but keeping your personal files and settings intact. Approach it cautiously, but refresh may be just what the doctor ordered when a particularly nasty malware strain ensnares your computer. Green screen of death. RIP blue screen of death, at least for Windows insiders. Microsoft's changing the background color of its infamous crash dumps to green for Windows insiders, making it easier to identify when an error happens in a preview build rather than a production build of Windows 10. Fits the Minecraft vibe, Windows 10 Stroke Eraser. Think of it as a CRTLNZ for your doodles. To be honest, it's surprising Microsoft launched Windows Ink without this feature. Virtual Virtues. 2 final Creators Update editions cater to the business crowd. Streamlined Virtual Private Network, VPN, support makes it possible to easily activate a connection without opening your network connections once Windows knows your VPN credentials, while a new Quick Create option makes it easy to deploy Hyper-V virtual machines like ID Split. Space savings. Finally, all these new features and functions gobble up precious storage space, and yet another new feature helps to free it back up. A new option in Windows 10's storage settings, which is off by default, will automatically delete unneeded items when you're short on space. The initial version eradicates temporary internet files and anything you've had in your recycle bin for over 30 days. The Windows 10 Creators Update's best new features, privacy tweaks, Paint 3D, and more. By Brad Chacos on March 29, 2017 at PCWorld.com.
Well, that's it in a nutshell of all of the things, or many of the things, that's coming to your PC starting this week. Now, to me, there's not a lot of exciting things, but there are some things that will make it run better and quicker and make it look a little bit nicer and change it. So I've got to learn them. So when people ask questions, I know where to find things and so on. But there's not a lot there. I'm not a gamer. I'm not a. Uh, uh, I don't do any 3D work. I may start. I don't know, but I do a lot of photo editing and that sort of thing. But I'm not sure whether I would be using any of the 3D parts of it. But if you've got the home version, you're not going to have a choice somewhere down the road. You're going to have it install this latest version. And if you're on the premium or pro version, it will happen either at a time that you say okay, or sometime within the next year, most likely you'll be updating. And you really should, to keep up to date with the security issues and so on. But what should you do to get ready? And this was an article, and I think I sent it out to the Tech SIG, but you may not have looked it over. But I would like to go over a few things in this article because I think there's some important things that you should do before installing Windows 10 on your computer or before it does it on its own. The first item is check the manufacturer's website to find out if your system is compatible. Is your computer even going to run this latest version? The only machine I have that I'm concerned about is I have a Surface 3, not Surface 3 Pro, but a Surface 3. And when I upgraded the last time to the latest version of Windows 10, it required, I think it was 20 gigabytes of free space, and I didn't have it on that system. I think I bought it, it had 64 gigabytes of space, and of course a lot of it's the operating system and everything else that I have on it. And so I had to start deleting some things. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to update that Surface to this latest version. I'm going to have to check and see. So you also, and if you got an older system, you might want to see if it will support this latest version of Windows 10. Then you want to download and create a backup reinstall media for your current version of Windows. And we did cover that at a recent meeting, but you want to get the media creation tool and make create a backup reinstall media. So if everything crashes, at least you can come back up and get your Windows 10 back to where it is today. The anniversary issue was the latest version. So follow the directions on how to do that. And then make sure, as I mentioned, make sure you have enough disk space to do the upgrade. And connect to a UPS to ensure the battery is charged and the PC is plugged in. So if you have a laptop, you want to make sure that it's plugged in to do the upgrade. Because if it takes quite a bit of time and it dies while you're doing the upgrade, you're liable to corrupt the hard drive, and that's the end of it. You're going to start from scratch anyway. Suggested if you've got a UPS to connect it to the UPS. So if your power gets a glitch or shuts down, that it will continue. But not only do you need the computer to have a UPS, but you might have to have your internet connection. Well, it probably wouldn't matter during the install, but once the install is done to finalize things, it might want to call home. So you might be all right if you get the install done anyway. They suggest disabling your antivirus. I've never done that. And I've never had a problem, but if you have a problem with it, it could happen. So you might want to consider doing it. I'm not saying you have to do it. And also disable all other background software. So you pretty much get a clean boot. Again, I don't do that, and I have not had a problem. But if a problem arises, that could be one of the causes of it. And disable any peripherals and external USB devices. I've always felt I want them on and connected because as the operating system is updating, I wanted to see them and make the proper connections in the upgrade. But they also could create a problem if they're not compatible. So I'm not agreeing with all of these things, and you might not. You might decide you don't want to do any of these, but these are suggestions from one of the authors. Update or disable your display adapters, and then it's disconnect from the from the internet when using an ISO. So if you're using a disk some media that was made from an ISO, you might want to disconnect the internet so nothing else happens. You want to skip get important updates and switch to a local user account and then run these commands to resolve any system integrity issues. And these are some things that you might want to check. And then conclusion of this article is the point of this guide isn't to scare you into avoiding a Windows 10 Creators upgrade. But for most users, the upgrade can be successful without performing any of those. The one thing you do want to do, though, we'll go ahead and close that window so that goes away, is do a backup. I've backed up my main system and I've backed up my laptop. I still haven't backed up the my Surface, and that will be tonight. I've got to, and what I did before I do any of my backups, I do any of the updates, current updates to Windows 10, make sure I'm up to date of everything, and then do a complete image backup. And then I do file backups on a regular basis. I just make sure that I've done a recent one to make sure that if everything bombs, my data is still intact. And if I have to start from beginning, I want to make sure that I have all of the data. And another thing you want to do, and I think it may have mentioned that in that article, if not, it's in one of the others that I've read, make sure you look at everything that you have installed on your computer and make sure you have a copy of the key or the code that you need if you have to install it from scratch, or if during the upgrade it wants to rekey it. In other words, it says, oh, wait a minute, this is on a new computer, you need to put your key in again. And it may do that. So make sure you make a list of all of those. You should have those somewhere anyway. So if you ever have to do a clean install, you can do that. You can always download the version of the software, but you can't always get the key from the manufacturer, and you'll have lost your original emails to show them that you did purchase it. They may not have a record that you were the one that purchased it. So that's what I suggest that you do. Now,
Hello,
yes.
Dick Vogel just made a good suggestion, I think, and that is to run Belarc Advisor, which would give you a lot of that information, like the CD keys, and also give you more information about
all the programs you have installed.
Right, Belarc does give you a list of all of them, and I believe it does give you the keys. Is that correct, Dick?
Yes.
So if you haven't done that, you need to do it in some way, is have all your keys and know what you have. Something else that I've started to do, that I download some of the giveaway of the day programs that are available, and then usually those don't allow you to do any updates or upgrades, and you have to install them during that same time period. And if you do have to go back to a clean install, you're going to lose those programs because you can't install them outside of the period that you were allowed to. And if you try to download a newer version of it, it's not going to honor the code that you have anyway. So you need to make note, and I've done that a couple of times where I didn't remember that a particular program was a giveaway of the day or a shareware on sale website that gives away software on a daily basis. And I did the upgrade or update of those software packages and then realized that, oh, I shouldn't have done that because now it won't work. So you might want to keep track of those things. And I usually do that in my program that I keep track of my passwords. I make a note, instead of a password, I put in the codes, and then I also notate the fact that if I, not to update or upgrade that program. So another thing that you might want to do on a regular basis. Now, I found this article, which I thought was a pretty good article, and it was the 5 backup strategy mistakes that you probably already make. This was from Groovy Post as well. And in a nutshell, this is what the article is. Mistake number 1, you've forgotten your password. Record your password and keep it in a safe place. Again, for your system, your operating system, whatever any of your usernames that you have for Windows, make sure you have those passwords written somewhere and they're up to date. If you've ever had to change them, you don't want to have an old one written down and you didn't ever write down the new one. And if you have to change them before you do all of this, so you've got a copy of them. It's a lot easier to change them when you're already signed in. Your free trial backup software or service has expired. Read terms carefully and purchase the software. Update credit card information for automatic renewals. Mistake number 3, you aren't backing up what matters. Don't trust the default settings. Review and back up files. Make sure your important files are there. And mistake number 4, you don't realize the limitations of your backup solution. Don't just back up your personal documents, back up installers, serial keys, and everything else that you need to restore your system to working condition. And then number 5, you've never tested your backup. So you don't even know if any of your backups work. So you want to run a backup recovery drill once or twice a year or sync up with the daylight. And you might want to do that by syncing up with daylight savings. You know, when you change the batteries in your smoke alarms, also check your backups to ensure that your backup really works. And the best way to do that is delete a file you don't really need and then try to restore it from a backup and see if you can get to it. I use Acronis True Image, and it creates a TIB file, TIB, which is an image file, but it's really just like a zip file. And as long as you have True Image installed on the computer, you can click on the TIB file. It'll open it up like a zip file, and you can grind your way down into a document folder and then open up that document, one of the documents, just to see if it opens. And if it does, then you probably got a pretty good backup. At least the data is there. And this article then explains all of those 5 items. One other item that as I was reading it, it popped into my mind and I want to mention it. You aren't backing up what matters. I purchased a year's subscription to something called Onedrive. And a couple of years ago, it was on sale for like about $8 for a year of 1 terabyte. The next year, I found the same special and renewed it for another year. But I think it's only like about $25, it might be $50 a year to back up a terabyte. And each night, it will back up to the cloud whatever new files I've added to my computer or changed files. And it looks at my system and it backs them up. Last night it backed up, I think it was 72 files. What I did, because I had many gigabytes in the beginning, they offer as part of their service that you give them a credit card. They don't charge you, but you give them a credit card number because they send you a portable USB hard drive. You use their software. Instead of backing up to the cloud, you back up to that hard drive. You then, at their expense, put it back in the box that you got it from, send it back to them, and they load it on the cloud, which makes it much quicker if you have many gigabytes of data. And so you're caught up, and then all you're adding is new files after that to your backup each night. Or so I think I had about 300 or 400 gigabytes that I put on this hard drive and sent to them, and they put it out on the cloud, and then I added to it. And it is well protected, and I've been very pleased with doing my backup that way. So not only not only do I run Acronis True Image, I have it automatically update to one cloud, and then manually copy files to another cloud storage. So I try to make sure that I have my files backed up. What I was finding is I was backing up over the years to True Image, but at one time I backed up to tape, another time to CDs, and then to DVDs. Then they wouldn't fit on those because it got to be too big. So I was backing up to large tape drives, and I don't have those tape drives anymore. So I had to destroy the tapes because there was no way I could get to the data that was on them. So you have to bear in mind that when you're backing up, that in the future, if you delete something from your hard drive and it doesn't get backed up to your new backup, that you may not be able to get it back from a older backup that's on media that you can't read. So be careful and think in terms of that. I've got some pictures that I wish I had now. I've got smaller versions of them, but I don't have the originals, only because I didn't think I would need them, and at that time didn't have the storage space for them. And going through a bunch of old hard drives, I thought I might have saved them somewheres, but it doesn't appear that I did. I'm still going through old backups and old hard drives, but some of those things just have gone away, and there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, next on the agenda is how to defer the Windows 10 updates. I'm going to leave that to you to read. It's an article from PC World, and it goes through and it tells you what you should do depending upon the version that you have. Remember that if you have a home version, the only thing you can do is tell it what hours not to do it. But otherwise, it's probably you're going to end up having the Windows 10 update. Here's the 5 biggest changes and the best features, the biggest changes. And I think that video that I showed probably went through all of these, but we'll just do it very quickly. Oh, this was a video as well. There's a better install for the Windows update. There's a lot more helpful
Windows 10's
Cortana,
Creators Update
and I
isn't
need to shut her
created.
off. I don't like their website because they automatically play videos when you go to it. Excuse me. Edge enhancements. Edge, of course, is replaced the Internet Explorer, so your browser from Microsoft now has more enhancements. And of course, this last update that they did back last summer, you can now add add-ons and to it. And I have on my Edge, I am able to do and use Evernote, which I couldn't when Edge first came out and kept me from using it. There's also a focus on gaming. I'm not into gaming, so this really doesn't have any effect on me. But there is a focus on gaming in the new version of Windows. And Paint, excuse me, Paint 3D. Also some 3D, and I don't use Paint, and so that's not something that I'm really excited about as well. Windows 10 Creators update some best new features. Goes over some of the items that we showed and more. The update is coming. Again, a review gallery of all the things. Some of them are repeats of what we talked about. Let's see if there's anything new or different in this. You've got the Action Center, and it's just some pictures of what some of the changes that are coming. And I think most of those were covered in that recording that I did. But you can take a look through there and see if there are some other additions. There might be some screenshots there that we didn't deal with that I did want to add in this list. There's a really good review here on the update and what they feel are some of the pluses and minuses. And then some more, the 17 best hidden features. Let's quickly take a look at that. Again, this is let's see, I don't think I did this as a recording, but let me just see if I did. Give me 1 second. Update review. I did the review, and I think it's pretty much the same. So instead of playing that recording, I'll just refer the article to you. Let's see, that's this one. This is the hidden features. We'll take a look. Cortana's reminders, that was mentioned in the video. Put off Windows Update for a year, again, but not in the home version. Folders within the Start menu, you can will be able to do with that. Dynamic lock option secures your PC, so after a certain time period, it'll lock it, or you can do it manually. You've got some troubleshooters all in one place. Surface dial, that's for the Surface, which probably most of you aren't going to have. There are some themes that you can now add and change so you don't look the same as everybody else's machine. I try to stay generic because I do so many of these presentations. I don't want to confuse people too much, so I don't usually use a lot of the themes or don't use themes. Inking with maps, you can, if you've got a touch screen, there are going to be more things you can do with the inking ability of Windows 10. If you're not familiar with that, and you wouldn't be unless you have a touch screen. If you do have a touch screen, you want to do some research on using the ink feature, and you can just do some markups using your fingers and draw on directly on your screen, and then save those. There's some quick traffic checks using the Windows Maps program. Windows 10 Power Pack of privacy options, which was mentioned in the video. Sonic spatial sound, I'm not sure. One day far into the future, Windows will finally catch up to Winamp and include actual graphics equalizer inside the operating system. In other words, this is something for the future. It's not really there yet, but it's going to be part of it. There is some audio support to pump up the volume more in games than anything else. The storage sense butler tidies up. So if you're starting to run out of free space in your hard drive, there's some automated things it can do to help clear up space. It's going to be included in the operating system. You can create some of your own touchpad gestures. That was alluded to in the video. And some things with the Paint 3D. The Windows Defender, you can reset your PC. Again, be careful, and you want to make sure that when you do that, that you have backups of everything and the information at hand, because some of it you're going to have to reinstall. Get Office apps, now manage Office. And Windows Defender has family options, and that's it for that article. So there's some things in the background. We're going to find out more things that will do and change, but it is going to have a little bit different look and feel. And the version that'll come out later this year, which will be the next update, probably towards November, December area, that's going to have even more of the visual changes in the operating system, the way it looks. So just as we get used to this next update, things will change again. The Windows 10 Creators Update Review. Microsoft adds fun to its flagship operating system. And then this last article is, I do want to touch base with this. You want to read this before you do your update. So if you run into any of these problems, you say, I know what the answer is to that, or what to do to fix them. And it kind of lists some of the issues and what you can do about it. One is low disk space. The operating system requires more space, and the 32-bit version mostly runs on tablets and less, needs 16 gigabytes of free space, and the 64-bit needs 20 gigabytes. And so if you're installing from a file stored on your computer itself, with the Microsoft upgrade tool, you'll need an additional 2 to 4 gigabytes just for the installation files. So you might want to consider having downloaded the ISO file or the install and do it from an external drive. So that's if you're out of space. Continue reading, and we'll do that. And that takes us to page 2, which is just below here. ISO image issues, or some issues with the ISO. An ISO is just an image of the install procedure and all the files you need. If you've used the Microsoft Media Creation tool to burn a disk or create a bootable USB drive to install Windows 10, it's possible the media itself is damaged or corrupt. This will result in a failed or damaged installation. Sadly, it's extremely difficult or impossible to modify the files once they're written to the disk or the drive. You'll need to run the tool again to install Windows 10, which might or may necessitate access to another laptop or installing the older version of Windows again. If you continue to experience problems after creating multiple installation media and trying to install Windows 10 more than once, you may have a persistent hardware problem. The CD or DVD burner or the USB drive you're using may be faulty, and if possible, try using a different USB drive or an external disk burner. And remember that most of the newer computers don't have DVD drives in them, so if you create a DVD, if you get a hold of a DVD disc to install it, make sure your drive has one and that you can get to it and it will operate as a bootable drive if you have a bootable disk in it. It may not see it depending upon your drive and your DVD drive and your computer. And you might be able to just do it from an ISO drive, and it does tell you how to, there is a link to grab the ISO drive. Error codes, if you get some error, there are different error codes. We couldn't install Windows 10. We've set up your PC back to the way it was right before you started the install. So sometimes during the Windows installation, the program will stop and display an error code. There are hundreds of possible error codes and at least as many potential problems. Best thing to do in this situation is write down the code. You may or may not be able to copy it from the display screen and search the internet for the core problem and hopefully, and that says hopefully, a solution. Here are some steps you can take. Unplug any unnecessary devices. For desktops, remove or disconnect any unnecessary internal hardware. And if you're upgrading your PC and you've selected a standard upgrade that preserves your programs, remove unnecessary programs before beginning the installation process. If your Windows install or upgrade it doesn't complete and you have issues with startup, you might want to disable hibernation, which you can do by typing the power config /h off to a command prompt window. And alternately, simply install the operating system cleanly, preserving your personal files, but not your program. To do so, select Custom Install Windows instead of Upgrade during the setup process. You can reinstall your programs later. Again, make sure you have the keys so you can do that easily. Microsoft also offers a list of potential Windows 10 installation error codes and what they mean, and I believe there's a link there for it. You may have some incompatible hardware, and again, that may cause some issues. So those are the things to be careful of when you're doing the upgrade. And so make sure you read that article before the next couple of days as well. And on that note, if I have some questions from the audience, we can go from there, and we can wrap it up so you can have your main meeting. Stan?
Okay. Very interesting. Thank you, Huey. Anybody questions or comments? No hands.
No hands. I guess everybody is all set to receive and gladly their new update and anticipate no problems.
Well, that last thing that you just talked about, it struck me that rather than, once you're ready, rather than sit and wait and wonder when it's going to come, downloading that ISO on the link that they provided would let you do it when you want to. I think that's probably what I would do.
Yeah, but and again, make sure you back up, and you're backing up on a regular basis, and then double check that backup before you do the upgrade, because you got a bad backup, and then you go to it, there's no, you literally don't have the files you're hoping to have.
Bob Black has a comment, I think.
Yeah, there would be questions, but Arvin isn't here. He's home digging the bunker against the update. He doesn't want to get it.
Yeah, don't be afraid of it, but I'll be prepared for the worst, and because your computer knows if you're not backed up, and that's when it really will bomb. So if you're not backed up and you just got your fingers crossed, it will see that. It will note that. So, all right. So we're on to your main portion of your meeting.
One more comment from Ted.
Okay.
Huey, how can you get a brand new copy of this thing without doing updates?
What was the question again?
How can you get a brand new copy of this without doing updates?
Brand new issue.
A brand new issue.
Copy of Windows 10.
I believe it's about $110 at probably Best Buy or online at Microsoft or the Microsoft Store.
No, I mean,
if it's not an upgrade, or update, I think you can get a clean version and use your number. But what you want to do is do the update that saves your data, but puts a clean version of the operating system on. And that's one of the choices when you get the download. All the copies will have that as a choice. You can either do a full update, or you can do the update, a clean update.
One more comment from Bob.
yeah, Refresh Computer is one of our sponsors, as you know. We'll put the update or Windows 10 on your computer free if you buy the update from them. So if you pay them the whatever it is, $110 or $90, whatever. And I don't know whether the 5% discount applies. But last time that they did something for me, they gave me a 10% discount. So they apparently think it's a 10% discount. I thought it was fine.
I got
So
that.
you might save yourself some grief, although you give them good instructions about which version you want, and of course back up your data. Or as I do, I never keep any data on my computer. It's always on an external drive, except of course for programs. I have you ready to restore your program.
Well, I don't know if you realize this, but with Windows, you do get, I think it's 15 gigabytes of the Windows Cloud Drive, and that's called, and I got to remember what it's called because they changed, OneDrive.
Yep.
For a small amount of money, I also have as I said, A drive, which I have a terabyte. There were a couple other free ones along the way that had 15 gigabytes or 10 gigabytes of free space where I've got files squirreled away there. And then I have Dropbox, which gives you I think it's 5 gigabytes to start. And if you upload files or if somebody else signs up through you, you can get additional. So I think I'm up to 16 gigabytes of Dropbox space. So you can back up to a lot of cloud areas, which you need to be careful with some of the cloud backups, though. Some aren't backups, they're just storage. And all they're going to do is sync with a folder that you have. Excuse me, a folder that you have. So you have to have that space on your hard drive. So it's not just a backup, it's a duplicate of what you have. And if you delete it on your hard drive, it deletes it from that cloud storage as well. So you make sure that it's truly a backup. Now, one thing I did notice on Dropbox now, you can tell it if you've got a Dropbox on, say, a portable machine like a laptop, you can tell it what folders just to show you the folder name, but it's stored out on the cloud, but not on your hard drive. And you can tell it, okay, I want to store these in the cloud and just show a connection to my hard drive, or I'm sorry, to my system so I can look at it in File Manager. Now, OneDrive used to do that in version in Windows 8, and when Windows 10 came out, they did away with that. And so in Windows, you've got to have a folder the same size as what you're storing out on the cloud. But they are in the process, and they announced it almost a year ago, and they still don't have it ready yet, that you are going to have like a space, what do they call it, a space holder. You'll have a list of the folders and subfolders that are in the cloud, but you can mark them as not saved on your hard drive. But when you want to open it, you click on the hard drive connection, and it will download and open it for that session. So
I think it's simpler to just have an external USB drive. It's 50 to 75 bucks, and you don't have to go through all these machinations.
The problem with that, Stan, is most likely that drive is going to sit on the same table or in the same room as your computer. And if there's, say, a hurricane and it destroys that room, your backup goes with the computer and you don't have a backup.
Well, the trick is to not do this update during a hurricane.
Yeah, but after you've done it, that drive is sitting in the drawer or on a desk somewhere in the same room.
Well, if you got that valuable stuff, you put it in a safety deposit box and take another copy of it, or there's always ways around it.
Well, and I'm suggesting one of the ways, and that's on the cloud, and that can be done once you're in the habit of doing it, and then you can actually, in a lot of these, you can do it automatically. I think I closed my A drive information down. No, it's right. Whoops. Yeah, I did. It went away. Every night I get it backs up. I have it back up at a couple of minutes before 9 p.m. because I usually have the computer on at that time, and I'll get a notice pop up saying 74 or 34 or 22 or 3 new files were were backed up to the cloud during that few minutes. And
it's almost quarter of.
Okay.
So I think we need to.
One last one.
And your speakers are there and ready to go. So I'm ready to call it a time. I'm going to first stop the recording, and then I'll say some parting goodbyes. And hang on here. Whoops.
How many